The Far Cry series has been one of my favourite franchises for, Jesus Christ, a decade now. I'm getting super old and I hate it. But in this decade, there have been many Far Cry installments, some admittedly better than others. I have sunk many hours into each of these games. I've played this series to death and have now decided to rank them worst to best. The quick side notes are that this is just my opinion. Don't be offended if I hate your favourite or love your least favourite. The second side note is that I'm only going to count games released during the Xbox One and PS4 generation because I haven't played 1 and 2 and there's nothing I could ever add to the discussion surrounding 3 and Blood Dragon. They're both fantastic, everyone knows it, so let's get straight into the list. It is no secret that I absolutely hate this game. I know a lot of people like it and I'm sorry, but this game is dreadful. None of the characters are even remotely interesting. You could take dialogue from one character, give it to any other, and it wouldn't sound out of place. Castillo is the only character who isn't god awful, and even that's only due to Giancarlo's quality as an actor. The world is boring, it's absolutely huge, but it all looks the same no matter where you go. It's just a general tropical island, there's nothing to it at all. The combat is obviously fun as it's Far Cry, but it's the only thing that the game has going for it. Even then, they removed the skill tree system and replaced it with this strange clothing item thing. They added ammo types for no reason, as you just need armor piercing rounds and ballistic rounds and then you're fine. It's just a bloated game that remains intensely shallow, and it makes for a very dull 20 hours or so, even if there are sprinkles of quality throughout. You probably thought this would be bottom, and if it wasn't for my irrational vendetta against Far Cry 6, it probably would be. The truth is, this game probably shouldn't have been its own game. It does feel like an expansion on Far Cry 5. With that said, if it were an expansion, it would be a pretty damn solid one. It takes place after the events of Far Cry 5 and it's the same map and whatnot, but with a fresh coat of paint. Literally. It looks nice, you've got your little base as well that you can upgrade, which is cool enough, but not very deep. The sisters are definitely not the best villains in the franchise, but I don't feel like they're terrible. The story also does some weird things to Joseph Seed's character, but anyway, the best part of the game was the awesome saw gun thing that you had. New Dawn doesn't stand up on its own well enough, and shouldn't have been a separate release, but it's still fun regardless. Far Cry Primal is about as ambitious as it gets with Ubisoft. There aren't many games like this out there, which I personally feel is a gap that should be exploited, because I feel like it's a really interesting part of history. The combat is understandably melee focused and the set pieces are less outlandish. The story is honestly pretty garbage, but the world is pretty cool. You're facing off against mammoths and saber-toothed tigers and stuff, and as someone who is a massive nerd about stuff like that, I found it deeply enjoyable. It has enough about it to distance itself from the two below on the list, but doesn't do anything special enough to wrestle with the big boys above. I feel like people seem to either love Far Cry 5 or not like it at all, and I definitely really liked it. The setting was something different. Hope County is in the American countryside and the antagonist is Joseph Seed, the leader of a dangerous cult, brainwashing the people of Montana. It's much more engaging than the typical evil dictator trope that the rest of the series has run with. The open world is more exploration based than the other games, but that does have its strengths and its weaknesses. It makes the game feel more organic than the other games, as organic as Far Cry can get anyway. It offers the illusion of discovery as you stumble through Montana, meeting people and completing quests. The downside is it leads to an appalling lack of structure, where you essentially complete side missions until triggering a capture event where you'll get put to sleep and then a 20-minute mission occurs where you break out. It becomes widely repetitive and was a very strange design choice. However, the game is still fun, with interesting side content, a unique setting and an absolutely stellar soundtrack. Far Cry 4 is easily the best Far Cry to release since Far Cry 3 and Blood Dragon, and it's arguably better than both. It's very similar to Far Cry 3, which I've seen used as both a positive and a pejorative way to describe this game. It's essentially Far Cry 3 in the mountains with more refined combat. Personally, Kiryat is my favourite setting the series has had. It's way more interesting than just a tropical island. It's intriguing, the wildlife is great, The scope for upgrades is fantastic, the story is honestly quite good for Far Cry standards, and Pagan Min is the most layered protagonist this series has ever had. Yes, he's a bad guy, but he's one of those where you can see where he's coming from. Everything in this game, from the combat to the environmental design, is brilliant. There's plenty of scope for experimentation whilst also maintaining captivating missions. It's simply a fantastic game. So that is my ranking of every Far Cry game since 2014. What's your ranking? Please let me know in the comments down below, but for now, that's all from me. If you enjoyed the video, then please make sure to leave a like, as it would be greatly appreciated by me, and if you want to see more fantastic gaming videos, then make sure to subscribe, because I upload every single Friday. Have a nice day, and goodbye.